What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was Killed by an Anbu, Becoming a Hollow Part 1. Now, let's begin. A dark cellar with a stifling stink and less than a healthy proportion of oxygen content. It was the kind of shady area that every parent cautioned their children about. A location you should never visit after dark. Unfortunately, Naruto found himself in this diabolical location, seated on a rusty steel chair with his wrists bound behind him. A guy wearing an Anbu mask snarled at him, raising a kunai in his palm. The icy kunai brushed his neck. A feeling of coolness washed over him as a bead of perspiration dropped down his face and landed on his soiled white shirt. Naruto, blame your hard-ass third Hokage for prioritizing his job over your life, the Anbu muttered, his tone colder than Naruto's horror, yet his eyes contained a small trace of sorrow. The sin for your death will be on his soul. He moved the guilt for killing an innocent soul to someone else. Instead of sobbing or pleading for mercy, Naruto merely sighed. Almost half a day has gone since they brought him here, and no one has come to his rescue. Giants danced in his gut, demanding food maniacally. He wasn't going to cry and close his eyes to reality. This was the end. There was no point pretending differently. He was lucky to have survived a similar predicament twice. The first time, he shattered his right arm, and the second time, he was stabbed in the left thigh. He almost lost his younger brother due to a misfire between the Uchiha and Anbu. Both times, the Anbu arrived to negotiate in less than an hour. This time, the stakes were too high. Fucking Gramps, Naruto snarled beneath his breath. Kill me, man. He'll track you down sooner or later. Since his parents' deaths, the third Hokage had been giving him modest gifts. The old guy only handed him a tiny amount of money to cover his daily meals and a small flat to live in. He was deeply appreciative, but also bitter. Love, and especially hatred, were illogical. The Hokage turned his life into a sad farce. He wanted to flee the filthy Fire Nation, but the third Hokage refused to let Naruto leave his protection. He simply wanted to live without continual violence. Unfortunately, he will not experience such tranquility in this life. The Anbu appeared startled at the mention of the third Hokage. No, he does not care about you. Any last words before we put you out of your misery? Last words, huh? Naruto grinned at the men that stood behind the blonde. Chances of survival were slim. But he desperately wanted to punch this asshole. If he couldn't survive, neither should his enemies. That's how he viewed it. No, then. I have a few. Naruto cut off Anbu with a kind smile. Fuck you and your colleagues for abducting me now. Couldn't you have planned another 3 months? The third Hokage may have perished in an intricate scheme. I mean accident. You dickheads would have killed the dumb Hokage. For Kami's sake, you're all impatient as fucking kindergarteners. He took a deep breath following his scream. It felt like a stone had been lifted from his chest. Ah, there is no better stress relief than yelling. Naruto's statements irritated his abductor. You little cunt, he shouted. The Anbu pushed the kunai deeper into his neck. Looking down at his demise made him feel some regret. His main concern about dying was if the afterlife existed. If not, where does he go after death? Will he just quit existing? The Anbu slashed his throat when he became lost in concentration. Naruto choked on his blood. A searing pain burst in his neck, causing him to cry out in anguish. His eyes drifted closed, and his head dropped as the scorching feeling subsided. Following his death, silence descended. Hold on. Why can I think? His consciousness was intact following the bullet. Did his brain survive the gunshot at that range? Unlikely, given the total blackness around him. He was drifting in nowhere, empty of all sensations, including the pain caused by the gunshot. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. The character, Naruto Uzumaki, was developed. A familiar floating window appeared amid the sea of darkness. Character. What is this? Jiraiya used to shout about a system. Is this what it is? That shady rebirth cliché of elevating a protagonist to god levels for no cause. He disliked systems because they assigned unrealistic responsibilities to their hosts. Let's not forget that most systems were either part of an end-level boss's strategy or provided by an alternative form of the main character. Despite his uncertainty, the sense of his body returned. He experienced lurching up and down, the exaggerated motion of a horse's pace all too familiar. He had been riding horses since he was a youngster, but had not ridden one since he graduated from high school. As he wiped away the final traces of sleep, he beheld a landscape of jagged peaks, rocky tops, and snow-covered ridges. The stars were vanished from the ink-black sky, leaving just a half-moon fighting a hopeless struggle against the gloom. Was the moon always this close? Hi, you are finally awake. The following events occurred before Naruto's awakening. Hollows lived on Reishi, a mysterious substance that found its way into the very soul of all beings. The enormous concentration of reishi in Hueco Mundo enabled even the weakest hollows to transform ambient energy into Riryoku. In contrast to their hungry cousins that tormented the living world, hollows in Hueco Mundo could endure without eating souls. However, there were individuals whose ravenous appetites could not be satisfied by simple reishi or human souls. Compelled by a gnawing vacuum, these hollows turned to cannibalism, feeding on their own kind. This brutal act of predation fueled their growth into a new and deadly breed, the Mainos. The Jillians and Ajukas lived in a constant state of predation, both motivated by a quest for evolution. The Vasto Lord, alone and enigmatic, studied the lesser beings from their lofty perch, seldom finding a soul worthy of enhancing their great strength. This never-ending cycle of eating and being eaten was the unspoken law that governed Hueco Mundo, where the weak were always swallowed by the powerful. The weak become part of the powerful. One of the numerous hollows was called Emilo Apache. She had no idea how her name came to be, but she was rather attached to it. Apache was hardly a weakling in the hollows hierarchy. She had won several battles. However, it was the pain of her losses that left deeper scars in her spirit. Apache eventually devised a brilliant survival strategy. She avoided formidable opponents with her agile, deer-like shape. When flight became impossible, she focused spiritual force into her horns, unleashing a torrent of Sero. She wielded enormous strength as an Ajukas, but instead of eating people, she opted to feed on the ambient reishi. Today has been a relaxing day for the peace-loving deer. She moved smoothly over the vast, moonlight desert, her hooves crunching softly against the immaculate white dunes. The faint moon hung low in the sky, throwing a ghostly glow across the empty landscape. She came to an abrupt halt, her pulse thumping in her chest, when she noticed two cerulean legs jutting from a neighboring dune, as if their owner had been entombed alive. Apache searched the bleak horizon, her senses on full alert, looking for the dark hollows responsible for this trap. I am no idiot. As an Ajukas, her strong senses could detect hollows' presences, even if they were invisible to her sight. The outcome, however, left her startled. What? Is there no one here? Her curiosity piqued. She twisted her exquisite neck to explore the surroundings again before returning her eyes to the slim legs, which were too delicate to be hollow. It's none of my damned business, she said, turning aside and stomping out. However, a minute later, she found herself lured back to the enigmatic legs, which remained still and unaltered. What exactly is their problem? Apache, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, sank her teeth into the blue material wrapping the leg and tugged its owner from the sands, finally getting a good look at the stranger. To her surprise, this hollow was unlike any she had seen previously. Everything about his look, from his ragged clothing to his messy, yellow hair, spoke of humanity. His mask, complete with twisted horns and nasty fangs, revealed his real identity as a hollow. She couldn't help but notice the stunning black wings on his back. A male. Apache's interactions with male hollows in Hueco Mundo had been terrible, with all of them attempting to literally eat her. But this one seemed different. His placid and polished features projected little aggressiveness, and his feeble Ryotsu gave her pause, making her consider whether to murder and consume him. He's unconscious. And his legs. Her eyes widened with disbelief. What a terrible fate to suffer. Two transparent holes disfigured his thighs, resembling a hollow's symbolic heart. While such holes normally did not impede with everyday living, the huge cavities in his legs appeared to have catastrophic repercussions, since there was little skin remaining to support him. A faraway howl sent shivers down Apache's spine, making her body tense with anxiety. A powerful predator, and Ajukas that preyed on lesser Ajukas like her, was close. I need to go. With a quick glimpse at the unconscious man, She bit his shirt and threw him into the air. As he landed on her back, she fled along the moonlight beach. "I'll use him as bait," she reasoned, hoping to explain the surprising wave of compassion she felt for the stranger. In her mind, she reasoned that he would undoubtedly perish without aid in this harsh domain. "Hello. You are finally awake." Naruto could have easily confused the situation for the opening of Skyrim, were it not for the distinctly feminine tone of the voice addressing him. Indeed, being a dragonborn would have represented a remarkable destiny. Naruto repositioned himself into a more comfortable stance on his unanticipated mount, a deer-like creature featuring brown fur on its back and gray skin on its front. Two prominent white antlers adorned its head. As he assessed his environment, he recognized that there was no rider guiding the creature, only himself. Apache turned her head, noticing Naruto in her peripheral vision. "Are you a Vasto Lord?" she asked in a measured, deep tone, observing that his stature aligned with the reputed dimensions of the formidable hollows. "Your Ryotsu does not align with that." "Vasto Lord?" Naruto furrowed his brow, attempting to recall the source of the term he had encountered. The phrase was recognizable, hovering at the periphery of his recollection, yet the specifics remained frustratingly out of reach. He exerted effort to retrieve it from the depths of his memory. "I am trying to recall where I encountered that information." Upon hearing his softly spoken question, Apache halted, her senses captivated by the soothing quality of his voice. "His voice is quite pleasant. What am I doing?" Emerging from her thoughts, she shook her head with determination, her ears moving against her face. "Are you unfamiliar with Vasto Lord? Is this your initial day in Hueco Mundo? That does not appear to be accurate. Mainos do not originate with diminutive humanoid forms such as yours." As Apache elucidated the characteristics of hollows and their diverse manifestations, she contemplated whether, by some stroke of fortune, she had misinterpreted the man's Ryotsu. Ultimately, Naruto was considerably smaller than a standard Jillian and did not possess the untamed characteristics of an Ajukas. Behind his mask, Naruto's eyes narrowed in contemplation. The reference to Hueco Mundo and Mainos clarified his recollections, prompting him to survey his surroundings in astonishment. The pristine white landscape, characterized by undulating dunes interspersed with desolate trees and massive boulders, appeared both surreal and strikingly recognizable. The sand seemed devoid of life, and the atmosphere was calm and transparent, resembling glass. He seemed to have entered a vibrant realm that reflected his own reality. In an unexpected moment of insight, he recognized that this location closely resembled the world depicted in a particular anime. Indeed, Naruto struggled to contain the impulse to express his frustration vocally, as the circumstances he faced warranted a strong response. He found himself unexpectedly transported to a realm inhabited by Shinigami, hollows, and Quincy, the universe of Bleach. After enduring a significant blow, he was ultimately liberated from the control of the third Hokage. "Is this the outcome I receive for enduring all the challenges?" He inhaled deeply, saturating his lungs with the cold, dusty air that filled Hueco Mundo. This was neither an illusion nor a construct of his fading consciousness. As the reality of his situation became apparent, he exhaled deeply. Dear, could you please share your name?" Politeness was essential when one was uncertain about the situation at hand. Demonstrating respect significantly contributes to establishing trust and mitigating avoidable conflicts. The individual possessing the voice contemplated the request for several moments. Apache. Arthur's note. The process by which Naruto ascended to the status of Vasto Lord was quite intricate. Upon Naruto's demise, all of his chakra, encompassing Kurama's chakra, transformed into spiritual energy. Upon his transmigration to another world, he was expected to assume the role of a Shinigami captain, given his substantial reservoir of spiritual energy. However, his animosity towards the third Hokage, combined with Kurama's resentment, ultimately transformed him into a hollow being. His immense energy was so significant that he ascended to the rank of Vasto Lord from the outset. His transformation into a Vasto Lord resulted in a depletion of spiritual energy, which accounts for his current weakness despite his status as a Vasto Lord. It is important to remember that his spiritual energy remains intact. It is currently experiencing a temporary depletion. My name is Apache. Upon reflection, Naruto acknowledged the name. She was a member of the Tres Bestias, serving as part of Tyr Haribel's Fracción. The tanned espada with golden hair, undoubtedly one of his most favored female characters, guided Apache and her two companions. This situation is quite unusual. He unexpectedly found himself in a timeline prior to the moment when Apache met Tyr Haribel and underwent transformation into an Arrancar under Aizen's influence. A timeline in which the astute Aizen had not yet taken command of Las Noches. It is possible that he has already taken action. He was not completely certain regarding the intricate timeline of Bleach. How does yours compare? Do not anticipate taking mine without providing yours in return. Apache expressed her frustration at his silence. Is there a reason for your silence? It is possible that Naruto's calm demeanor and lack of awareness regarding Hueco Mundo contributed to her sense of comfort. She perceived no threat, permitting her authentic nature to emerge. Although courteous on the exterior, she was a hollow with a passionate disposition. Naruto, he replied, his fingers lightly grazing the skeletal mask that obscured much of his face. It is. This led him to examine the other transformations occurring in his body. He was attired in the same clothing at the time of his passing. His orange jumpsuit, which was frayed in several areas, revealing his pale skin. One of those openings revealed the significant gap in his thighs. There are 2 holes, to be specific. I believe I recall this. Each hollow's hole, particularly in higher evolutions, represents a specific aspect. Typically what the hollow was missing prior to their death or the circumstances surrounding their demise. He recalled that information from the material. A hollow hole near the stomach indicated a desire for strength, while one in the eyes suggested a lack of awareness regarding certain matters. What is the intended meaning of mine? He lightly struck his thigh before attempting to move his legs. He was fully capable of using his legs. Concerned about your vulnerabilities? Apache inquired. We are hollows. Why exhaust your legs with walking when we have the option to fly instead? Indeed, that is quite amusing. He found amusement in her subtle effort to provide him with comfort. Apache, could you please inform me of our destination? How am I supposed to know? She replied sharply. A location where I can be free from the persistent presence of excessive indulgence. Naruto gently caressed her crest, his fingers gliding through the soft fur that adorned her head. It was a practice he had developed during his time spent horse riding as a sign of fondness for his horse. Please be mindful of your contact, I am not an object for your amusement. Although her tone was irate, she refrained from instructing him to dismount. He observed his legs and smiled, appreciating her understated kindness. In a challenging environment, she demonstrated her compassion towards an unfamiliar individual. She may have felt a sense of relief upon finding a reasonable companion in Hueco Mundo. Someone who would not betray her or turn her into sustenance. It is often claimed that hollows possess malevolent qualities. He might have contemplated the possibility of seducing her had she been in her Arrancar form. Unfortunately, she will not be able to achieve her human form in the near future. It is unfortunate. Indeed, I nearly overlooked that pop-up window. Wasn't it the character system? A large gray box suddenly appeared, blocking his line of sight. Character system. He quickly glanced at the status and directed his attention to the 3-dimensional model adjacent to it, which represented his current appearance as though he were a character in a video game. The model's clothing clearly indicated that it was a representation of him. Despite his newly elongated yellow hair and pallid white skin, his gaze was firmly fixed on the pair of black, feathery wings. He extended his hand to his back and carefully felt the delicate structures extending from his shoulder blades. He carefully rolled his shoulder blades, feeling the muscles of his wings extend and come to life. The wings, awakening from a deep slumber, seemed both delicate and shadowy, as if they had a life of their own. I possess wings. He opened his eyes wide in anticipation and inhaled deeply. His wings moved with a captivating rhythm, and then, drawing upon an unexpected inner strength, he commenced to flap them energetically up and down. The force created by his endeavors drew Apache's focus. Are you capable of flying? Naruto stopped his aerial maneuvers and offered a reassuring pat on her back. I am uncertain. He redirected his attention to the status and noted that his half-mask closely resembled a demonic skull. The large openings showcased his striking blue eyes, while a formidable arrangement of teeth aligned seamlessly with the mask at the point of contact with his lips. The twisted horns seemed to befit a demon. Am I some sort of a demon? General information? Full name: Naruto Uzumaki. Sex: male. Race: Hollow, Vasto Lord. Riryoku level: exceptional level, captain class. Alignment: neutral. Evil affiliation: not applicable. Ethnic attributes: Sero. An offensive technique utilizing Riryoku. Current proficiency: to be developed. Sonido: movement technique. Proficiency level: still in the process of learning. Garganta: limited spatial distortion technique. Current proficiency: to be developed. Inherent skills: your voice has the power to impact the emotional state of others. The capability is most effective in influencing or enticing an individual. Unnamed, undiscovered. Expression of your inner void. Crumbling heart: hollow. Entities categorized as hollow obtain sustenance and improvements. Regeneration: your wounds heal automatically. The duration needed is contingent upon the severity of the wounds. Developed skills: attraction. The capacity to captivate individuals of the opposite gender. Proficiency level: basic writing refers to the skill of controlling and navigating a mount. Proficient level: intermediate arithmetic involves the capability to solve arithmetic problems. Proficient level: intermediate equipment. The orange jumpsuit. Have I lost some memories? This was clearly not the condition of a newly emerged hollow. A Vasto Lord possessing Riryoku comparable to that of a captain class. This level of power positioned him close to the pinnacle of Hueco Mundo's hierarchy. In the broader context, he was ultimately regarded as little more than elite resources. He was unable to match the caliber of endgame villains such as the Quincy Sternritters. Neutral evil: it is logical. He consistently pursued freedom, irrespective of any legal implications. Additionally, he held a strong disdain for the third Hokage, who dedicated his life to the betterment of society. Indeed, he never fully conformed to the expectations of a lawful individual. The subsequent aspect addressed was the racial abilities, a collection of innate skills possessed by all Vasto Lord. There is nothing remarkable in that regard. The remarkable qualities are evident in his array of inherent skills. His voice had consistently received compliments, which facilitated his interactions with women. He was unable to comprehend that this had emerged as one of his inherent skills. Crumbling heart. Despite its intimidating moniker, it looked to be a team-oriented skill with no tangible rewards for him personally. It might be handy if he finds reliable hollow friends. Scratch that. He would either lure hollow ladies into trusting him or overpower them using hollow's inherent law. Unknown hollow heart. He put the unknown part to the back of his mind and reviewed the rest of his situation. His abilities were barely outstanding. In truth, they wouldn't be considered overpowering in a world where one Quincy could make his idea come to life and another could see and alter the future at will. This cannot be it. There must be more functions. A tremendous roar captured his attention before he could continue exploring his system. Apache shuddered, realizing the source of the sound. It is back. Oh no, we're dead. So dead. She had faced the huge Ajukas a few days before, and her sonido and natural agility had saved her from its voracious mouth. However, her current Riryoku was insufficient to employ her rudimentary level sonido for more than 30 seconds, giving her insufficient time to avoid the Ajukas hellbent on engulfing her. An enemy? This is bothersome. He hadn't mastered fundamental hollow tactics like regulating his Riryoku, or spiritual strength. While he possessed more Riryoku than the normal captain class Shinigami, he lacked expertise directing it. You bet it is. Apache kicked the ground, quickening her speed. Learn to fly, damn it. I can't carry you around like a slave. Their assailant arrived on the hill behind them. A massive snake-like creature with 8 limbs and the bottom body of a caterpillar. The skeleton mask on its head and bone-like armor on its shoulders detracted from its intimidating image. The beast appeared at ease in the barren, agonizing terrain of Hueco Mundo. The Ajukas rushed down the hill and chased them with its many writhing legs, causing a sandstorm in its wake. There is just one fate for you, little dear. Cease your opposition and join a larger Ajukas like myself. Naruto remained unusually unconcerned about the situation, as if his mind refused to see the gigantic beast as a threat. He rubbed Apache's back. Buy me some time, I will kill him. Apache could feel his confidence oozing from his speech like a warm, energizing elixir. extinguishing the worry and uncertainty that had been circling in her head. She felt powerless to examine the basis of his conviction, as if she trusted him. A hollow with faith, she sneered, her thoughts tinged with disbelief. Trust me. Then, like a soft breeze, his lovely whisper stroked her ears, erasing her doubts. She was like a frantic moth, attracted inexorably to a burning flame. Apache grumbled at the ridiculous situation she found herself in. Her options had been down to two: perishing within a hollow's stomach or trusting the guy who projected unflinching faith in his talents. Don't let me die. A tremendous explosion resonated behind her as she focused her Riryoku on her legs. Despite her average Sonido talents, Naruto was taken off guard by her unexpected acceleration. The wind slammed across his face, a feeling that would have sent his old body flying. In his present mood, however, the wind seemed exciting, like to riding his Suzuki. I love this world. Seizing the moment, he closed his eyes and absorbed himself in the energy that flowed through him. Controlling Riryoku was an instinctive instinct for every hollow, and he expertly managed the flow of energy with his thoughts. Easier than I expected. Apache's legs collapsed as she felt his bone-chilling Ryotsu. Her slip brought them falling down, and Naruto's clothing got even more damaged after sliding across the ghostly white sand. After the catastrophic collision, he picked himself up and dusted off his clothing, appearing unhurt. His hollow holes offered no impediment to his movements, acting only as decorative symbols. The sand at Hueco Mundo was unique, with granules that connected more closely than those on a beach, as if an unseen energy kept them together. Phew. I am not a cripple. Meanwhile, Apache was frozen in place as she stared at Naruto's vivid blue Ryotsu. His Ryotsu concentration exceeded that of an Ajuka's class, implying more strength. As if, haha, I didn't think there would be another one with you, chuckled the huge Ajukas, who appeared to be completely unaware of Naruto's Ryotsu. In actuality, the snake-like hollow was on the verge of retreat. I'll eat you, first, then savor the female there. Naruto turned toward the voracious Ajukas, focusing his Riryoku in his hand. A thick orb of azure energy formed, bending the surrounding air. What can? Suddenly, an ice shudder ran down the Ajuka's spine, igniting his nerves. His pulse pounded madly as he swiveled about, his eyes wide with fear and despair, anxiously looking for an escape from the spine-chilling presence looming behind him. Sero, at Naruto's command, the sphere of energy accelerated forward, swelling into a thick beam of light. The Sero ray shattered the hollow's mask and skull before ripping a large hole through the mountain in the distance. Naruto's first murder left him reeling, but for very different reasons. Holy cow, I am powerful. Racial ability. Sero learnt. Current master level. Basic. His elementary Sero expertise wrought such devastation that he was taken aback. He could scarcely comprehend the might of a fully mastered Sero. Shaking his head, he approached Apache, who was obviously shocked. He destroyed the Ajukas who had nearly killed her with a single Sero strike. As she looked into his eyes, it appeared that she was seeking to determine his real intentions. He was a Vasto Lord Hollow, a creature that most, if not all, hollows in Hueco Mundo dreaded. While not as common as Jillians and regular hollows, Ajukas may be found throughout Hueco Mundo, notably in Las Noches. Is he going to devour me? She swallowed hard and struggled to her feet. Being consumed by him seemed preferable to dying at the hands of the enormous Ajukas, but she refused to give up without a struggle. I won't die easily. Ignoring her self-inflicted issue, he got upon her and rubbed her back. I told you to trust me, and I think I'm a Vasto Lord. No shit. She murmured, becoming aware of the weight on her back. Huh? What is the meaning of this? Aren't you going to? She paused, not wanting to give him any ideas. What if he doesn't realize that hollows get strength by eating? She thought it was very feasible because he was unaware of his own ability as a Vasto Lord until now. Perhaps he lost his memory during a struggle and was buried where she discovered him. She might guess about his history for the rest of her life and never figure out why he was so ignorant at times. Quit mumbling stuff. We have to move. Apache's tail smacked his back in protest, the only gesture of rebellion she could conjure given her current circumstances. You can walk and fly. Get off my back. He leaned down to caress her ears. I will shield you from the hollows. You will let me ride you. A good bargain, right? Hawako Mundo appeared extremely drab, with little diversity in the surroundings. He needed her in his life, else, he'd become bored. His calming words temporarily rendered her mute. Fair bargain, my foot. I'm not accepting it because I'm grateful to you for saving me. Her heated tone contradicted her fake irritation. Unable to bear the shame, she strutted along meekly, quickening her speed. Naruto rolled his eyes. Her conduct mirrored that of a tsundere, since she concealed her gratitude under a veil of annoyance. To be honest, he found the attribute annoying. Seeing individuals be dishonest with their sentiments, burying their genuine emotions behind a wall of intransigence, may be quite irritating at times. Do you want to eat him? He asked. You can if you feel like it. Vasto Lord, like him, did not need to eat to evolve, and he did not consume enough Riryoku to become hungry. He didn't want to consume a huge lump of nasty raw meat. The concept itself horrified him. My only progression from here is Arrancar. To accomplish this, he would need to discover a means to remove his mask. Apache and her pals transformed from Vasto Lord to Arrancar with the power of Hogyoku, demonstrating that any hollow could undergo the metamorphosis. How am I expected to accomplish this? Just tear off my mask. The very notion of removing his mask struck him with intuitive, primitive anxiety, similar to the anguish a mortal person might experience when confronted with the icy grasp of death. Interesting. Aizen relied on the Hogyoku to blur the border between Hollow and Shinigami, resulting in Arrancar. Overcoming this intrinsic dread would need a tremendous degree of willpower and commitment, traits that not every Hollow possessed. Many would fail, either dying in the process or surrendering to their basic inclinations. I need more information before trying it. While Naruto was deep in thinking, Apache cast a quick glance at the fallen Hollow. She gulped hard, her hunger gnawing at her insides after finishing her Riryoku. As an Ajukas, she needed to eat others to retain her identity and position, or she would revert to her Jillian form and never ascend past Manos Grande again. For a lot of people, that kind of fate felt like it was worse than dying. I'm not going to say thank you just because you gave me food, she said with a huff. Naruto gave her a gentle pat on the back and flashed a warm smile. I get it, being honest with your words can be tough, right? I'm being honest here. While he was in the middle of his funny chatter, Naruto suddenly felt a quick, sharp prickling on his back. He turned his head slowly to glance over his shoulder, his eyes narrowing behind the mask as he took in the horizon. On a far-off hill, a white figure was standing there, looking a bit blurry even to his sharp eyesight. But when his eyes let him down, his understanding of the Bleach universe stepped in, helping him figure out the mysterious Hollow. Tear Haribel. Naruto's eyes narrowed, looking sharp and focused like a predator on the hunt. You could almost hear the gears turning in his head as he worked to remember all the details of Bleach. He was struggling to recall some details, but one image was etched in his mind. A tanned woman with hair like shimmering gold, her alluring curves accentuated by a white skin-tight jacket, and her composed gaze exuding an air of authority. The future number 3 of Espada, Tear Haribel. She ought to be a Vasto Lord just like me. Tear Haribel is different from other Hollows because she retained a lot of her humanity in this form. She didn't hesitate to lay down her life for her Frasium, and it was only fitting that her aspect of death was sacrifice. She's passionate, fierce, and dedicated to the people she cares about. Absolutely, she's exactly my kind of woman. He was always confident when it came to women. Do you think his new race is going to put an end to his nasty seductions? Nope. His new race just raised his goal even higher. Now he could live free from the limits of traditional morals. He was okay with getting involved in the plot too. The timeline took a turn right from the moment he started interacting with this tomboyish tsundere deer that was his mount. He decided he wouldn't let fear take over his life because of things he couldn't control. So, he was what was that? The word representing something crucial teased the tip of his tongue, only to vanish like a fleeting shadow. He scratched his head and furrowed his brow, trying to remember the thought that had slipped away. It just never came back. Haribel just vanished from the hill while he was all mixed up. System, can you tell me what you can do? A really awkward silence followed his question. He kept asking the same question over and over, but his system just gave him the cold shoulder. A system that doesn't have awareness. Do you think I'm in the wrong genre? He let out a sigh and shifted his focus to Apache. She softly nibbled at the hollow, like a little mouse munching on a huge wheel of cheese. At the rate she's going, it might take weeks to tackle that massive project. Luckily, she was able to get what she needed in just a few minutes, bringing her Riryoku back to almost full. Naruto gave her a gentle pat on the back and pointed her in the direction of Haribel's location. I'm not saying I'll let you ride me everywhere, Apache grumbled, a bit hesitant, but still went along with what he asked. This is so frustrating, you little dear. Once you become an Arrancar, you can't ride me. Are we starting? Apache just shook her head. I'm not really sure what an Arrancar is, but okay, I'll ride you once I become Arrancar. That's a promise then. There was nothing ostensibly alarming about his proposition, yet Apache felt like a mouse that had willingly walked into a mousetrap. His voice was filled with such unfiltered joy that it sent a shiver down her spine, making her question what she had just signed up for. After nearly an hour of searching, he didn't find any trace of Haribel, as if she had retreated into her base after she saw him annihilate the Ajukas. She may have mistaken him for another bloodthirsty monster. As a lover of peace and a hater of sacrifice, she went out of her way to avoid conflict with him. You know what, Apache? I'm going to practice flying. Not using his wings would be such a huge missed opportunity. He jumped onto Apache's back and soared into the air. She let out a howl behind him as he spread his wings, just like an eagle getting ready to take off. His feet skimmed the sand as his wings flapped powerfully, pushing the air downwards. A swirling cloud of white sand wrapped around Apache. She coughed a couple of times before pushing the sand out with her Ryotsu. Could you back off a bit? Naruto almost fell out of the sky when things suddenly changed, but he quickly adjusted and kept himself up with some quick wing flaps. It was like he was rediscovering the tricky skill of balance all over again. As he practiced, the movement of his wings became more familiar. In just an hour, he was soaring through Hueco Mundo's skies, while Apache gazed up at him with envy. You can't fly? Apache shook her head at his question. I can create footholds under my feet with my Ryotsu. It's not the same as flying, and boy, does it use a lot of Riryoku. The dense concentration of reishi in Hueco Mundo made it more difficult to create footholds in the air. While any hollow could fly in the world of living due to its low concentration of reishi, Apache's conservative approach to life ruled out flying because of its expensive energy cost. So, are we talking about making some footholds? Naruto mumbled, his wings flapping in a steady rhythm. He tapped into his Ryotsu and concentrated it under his feet, immediately sensing a solid platform take shape. Is this what you mean? You're getting better really quickly, Apache said, giving him a rare compliment. I actually don't find it draining at all. If she had fingers, she'd definitely be giving him the middle finger right in his face. Naruto let out a laugh. Since he had some free time, he started working on his racial abilities. Being a creature of instincts, he had a simple grasp of each one. Getting the hang of his racial abilities just took some time and effort. While having some fun with Apache, he came across another hollow and quickly took it out with a strong Sero. He was really thankful for being reincarnated as a Vasto Lord. Those random hollows and Ajukas didn't stand a chance against him. Right now, his biggest worry was the hollow ruling over the land of Las Noches as its king. He just didn't have what it took to deal with that skeleton guy's decay ability. It was probably a good idea not to stir him up. Oh, that makes me think of Ulquiorra. Wasn't he just a natural Arrancar? He spotted a glimmer of hope in tackling the seemingly life-threatening task. Ulquiorra ended up transforming into an Arrancar when he accidentally broke his mask. There were definitely more factors involved, that's for sure. So, are espadas a thing now? He recalled Aizen making his own Hogyoku to play around with hollows and create Arrancars, but he had no idea what was going on with Espada as a group. Just forget about Espada. I think it's a good idea to set some personal goals. He shook his head and thought about some personal goals. At the end of the day, we all need something to aim for to make life a bit more exciting. He had some pretty clear goals in mind, like traveling through Hueco Mundo to track down Tyr Haribel, pushing his Vasto Lord powers to the max, and becoming an Arrancar. He also wanted Apache to become an Arrancar, just so he could have some fun with someone. It wouldn't take much to win her over. With a sigh, he let his eyes drift around. How about we take our time with this? Just take it one day at a time. He had just come into the world. Being a hollow, he had all the time in the world to try out new ideas. Did you know it's always night in Hueco Mundo? Apache let out a little laugh. You silly goose, in Hueco Mundo, day and night, fun, and rules were missing, kind of like bright colors in a graveyard, almost like its creator had a cheeky sense of humor about hell. Feeling tired of the lonely vibe around him, Naruto decided to find some shelter in a cave hidden away in the mountain. He sighed, feeling really frustrated. Kubo, you jerk. This is really tough. Apache gave him a strange look. Kubo? Do you know who Kubo is? I don't know, he sighed. I'm feeling a bit frustrated. Why is that? I'll fill you in later. How about we take a break for a bit? Apache nodded in agreement and stretched out on the ground. Her stance showed the transparent hollow hole in her stomach. Figuring out the symbolic meaning behind Apache's hollow hole was super easy. She was tired of all the attention she was getting. So, she really wanted the strength to get through it. He made her current feelings seem way too simple because he couldn't really understand her history. Sleep well. Naruto tucked his wings in close and rested his head on Apache, being mindful of her hollow hole so he wouldn't make her uncomfortable. Feeling annoyed by his wings, he shifted to his side. Where do you think you're planning to sleep? WWE had a deal, right? How about we throw something else into the mix? I'm going to use you as a pillow. Just like that, you can do the same once you become an Arrancar. In her Arrancar form, she wasn't super tall, but he was almost 6 feet 3 inches, maybe even taller after he transformed into a hollow. He could manage her without any trouble. Okay. Apache let out a frustrated sigh and plopped her head down on the ground. He was the most arrogant guy she had ever come across, but then again, she hadn't really had the opportunity to get to know anyone else like him. That guy really doesn't know much. Just give me a nudge if anyone comes at us. Don't go through this alone. He was definitely the most thoughtful one. Naruto ran his fingers over his mask, and a wave of dread washed over him. He paused before pulling off his mask, knowing that one wrong move could mean the end for him. I'm going to look for some hollows to experiment with, ideally Ajukas. Apache caught a glimpse of him out of the corner of her eye. His silence had her feeling a bit on edge. You keep bringing up Arrancar this, Arrancar that. So what exactly is an Arrancar? A hollow that has an essence more akin to a Shinigami. They say we get this power when we take off our mask. Are you out of your mind? Apache shot back. The mask really is a part of who we are. If we take off the mask, we won't be able to control Riryoku anymore. We could end up dying or turning into a Jillian. Once an Ajukas goes through regression, they can't get their form back. They'd be stuck forever, just wandering around Hueco Mundo as a giant, mindless Jillian. No Ajukas wanted to face that kind of fate, which is why they felt compelled to consume other hollows. Naruto reached out and gave a playful tug on the unicorn-like horn sticking out from her forehead. Trust in your ability to challenge the usual ways. So, who am I really talking to here? You would have been in big trouble if I hadn't jumped in back there. She had something to say, but she paused for a moment. There's really no point, whether we start or not, we're just passing the time. This is Hueco Mundo, you know? Come on, you know what I mean. She had come to a tough realization after seeing the cycle of hollows devouring the weaker ones. They were all going to die one day. She hoped to find a way to pass on quietly, if that could be arranged. Naruto had not expected his taunting to generate such a strong reaction from her. She was becoming sad over her imminent death. What's obvious? That surviving just serves to delay our doom. That some hollow would appear that we cannot vanquish and swallow us completely? Apache nodded enthusiastically. We can never be the strongest. You're underestimating the power of a Vasto Lord Arrancar, he said sternly. One more thing. After dying in the realm of living, shouldn't we, the hollows, make the most of our time here? Are you prepared to throw in the towel and allow some filthy worm chew you apart limb by limb while savoring your luscious legs? Will you allow that to happen without retaliation? He had felt feeble all his life. He was never going to face the same fate. She glared at him with fury, gnashing her teeth loudly. Hell no, I want to live peacefully. Then say it with me. I'll kick every ass in Hueco Mundo and become the most powerful Arrancar. Why are you making me say embarrassing things? Say it. His voice slid past her ears, making her gasp. I'll kick every ass and become the strongest Arrancar. She questioned herself until she spoke it aloud. His determination made her believe that she, a hollow with just enough Ryotsu to be in Ajukas, might become the most powerful Arrancar. She was energized, so much so that she repeated in a cheerful tone, I'll become the strongest Arrancar. Naruto grinned as she exuded confidence. We're off to such a fantastic start, young lady. Naruto glanced at his system's condition after a dreamless night's sleep. General information. Name: Naruto Uzumaki. Gender: male. Race: Hollow. Vasto Lord. Riryoku level: Great level, Captain class. Alignment: Neutral evil. Affiliation: None. Racial abilities: Sero's Riryoku attacking technique. Mastery level: Intermediate. Sonido. Movement technique. Mastery level: Basic. Garganta. Limited spatial distortion technique. Mastery level: Still to learn. He had previously mastered all of the fundamental Vasto Lord skills except for Garganta. Garganta was beneficial for traveling between the world of living and Seirei. He saved its mastery until later, focused on improving his combat skills first. The world of living. While trying to cheer himself up, he noticed an interesting element in the system interface. Every row, save for his equipment and talents, ended with a pencil icon. He tapped the sign next to the gender out of curiosity. The following options are available for the gender stat. 1 male 2 female 3 futa. The list carried on indefinitely, with strange names as genders. Helicopter. How is that a gender? Naruto regretted dabbling with gender stats. At the very least, he learned something important from this mishap. He could modify his standing to some extent. For this reason, the system called itself the character system. His gaze shifted to the race symbol, which displayed the identical pencil icon. Will it work? He swallowed his saliva. Each race in Bleach have distinct skills. Shinigami had Zanpakuto, which could unlock Shikai and Bankai phases. Hollow, Sonido, and Arrancar each have their own variation of Zanpakuto, resulting in many forms. Quincy has their own set of powers, like Blood Vene and other broken methods. Then there were Fullbringers, born under extraordinarily unusual conditions. He wishes he had the adaptability of every race. Only one individual in the Bleach universe will have blood from each major race. The protagonist, Ichigo Kurosaki. The divine combination of Shinigami, Quincy, Hollow, and Fullbringer. Even that degree of power was ineffective against the almighty Yhwach. It only demonstrated how terrible the father of Quincy actually was. With hazy eyes, he headed for the edit button located after the race choice, braced for disappointment. Options for race, soul human. The two choices astonished him. The second choice seems completely needless. He did not want to be powerless again. Could you show things in greater detail? Contrary to his expectations, a lengthy list of alternatives emerged before him. Loading evolution database. Function. Soul. The most pure form of a being. Current route of progression. Hollow. Hollows are souls who manifest their inner heart via the corruption of misdeeds. They surrender their brains to primal instincts and animalistic appetites. They have existed since prehistoric times. Soul. Base form. To base hollow. Materialization of inner heart and dominance by primal impulses. Attained. Jillian. Fusion with souls of similar affinity. Achieved. To Ajukas. Formation of a new awareness capable of conquering primitive impulses. Achieved. To Vasto Lord. Achieved partial harmony between raw impulses and awareness. Potential evolutions along this path. Arrancar, 2. Shinigami are souls who express their inner heart through exterior methods, representing an alternative route of soul progression. Soul. Base form. 2. Human. A soul that lives in a Kishi vessel and interacts with the world of living. Possible route of human development. Quincy. Human. Base. Completed. To Quincy, 2. An other potential path for human development. Fullbringer. The evolution database will be regularly updated with your expertise. Naruto was overwhelmed by the vast amount of information available. As he sorted through the alternatives, he saw an asterisk at the end, along with an explanation for the many question marks placed throughout the list. It became evident that the status only represented what he knew or remembered. Any gaps in his knowledge or memory were indicated by the unexplained question marks. When did I complete Ijuka's class? The achieved markings hinted to the potential that he began as a poor hollow, with those memories fading like a mirage or being discarded like broken toys as he converted into a vasto lord. They don't matter anymore. He squinted his eyes at the tick mark that appeared in front of each perspective progression route. He may revert to a prior evolution or perhaps take the Quincy Road. It was a complex technique compared to his intended capacity to transfer races at any time. He wasn't going to complain about a power that had a lot of promise in the future. This also implied, I can be a Shinigami. His face lit up with delight. The majority of the Bleach plot took place in the Soul Society, where most of the fascinating individuals dwelt. In comparison to the interesting happenings of the Soul Society, Hueco Mundo appeared quite mundane. I want to meet Unohana, Yoruichi, and Rukia. Pushing personal needs aside, he realized that remaining a vasto lord in Hueco Mundo would draw Aizen's carnivorous attention. Rather than waiting, he felt driven to travel to the Soul Society and strengthen his might by wielding a Zanpakuto. He had always acted passively, allowing others to decide his fate. What did he get in exchange? A life of mental suffering, with a kunai through his throat. Now he possessed knowledge of the future, the ability to transfer races, and a wonderfully helpful system. He had all the tools he needed to grow strong and enjoy his life on his terms. How pitiful would it be if he turned into a doll dancing on Aizen's palm? It won't happen. The notion of being used as a pawn made him furious. After all, he had no say over his past existence. He has no freedom to choose his own destiny, nor does he have the freedom to leave the house after curfew. He disliked such a life intensely. His eyes beneath the mask expanded as he had an insight. He struggled for control his entire life. A renegade who constantly sought to defy his grandfather's authority. That power gradually fell away, and he was forced to live under oppression, his life's greatest sorrow. Aspect of death is realized. Innate ability. Aspect of death, oppression, has been unlocked. He burst out laughing, like if he'd gone insane. The cave resounded with his wild cackles. Death by oppression. Oh, this is great. I love it. Apache wondered whether the brutality of Hueco Mundo had broken his psyche in one day. Oi, do not lose it. You can fight it. Push down your impulses. He turned to face Apache with a feral grin, his menacingly blazing eyes adding to his terrifying aura. What do you mean? I am a completely normal human being. Yes, I am. Apache couldn't help but miss his soft, compassionate voice. This rowdy Naruto sucks. Naruto remained within the cave for the next several hours. He wasn't seeking to become a hikikomori in Hueco Mundo. To properly understand Arankars, he needed to learn the fundamentals of being a hollow. He chose closed-door cultivation to perfect his vasto lord power and maximize the possibilities of his new intrinsic talent. The evolution database gave the foundational information, and his own imagination filled in the gaps. First and foremost, hollows were not the mindless soul-eaters as the Soul Society described. In reality, Bleach demonstrated that they were really different. The more he knew, the more fascinating intricacies appeared, challenging his chosen route. Questions raced through his mind. Why did a hollow wear a mask? Why did they consume others to satisfy their spiritual void? What was the nature of the emptiness that grew with their need for souls? Why did most hollows resemble humans once they reached the Ijuka's class? And, most importantly, what was this inner heart that caused the formation of a hollow? Most importantly, what was the inner heart that caused a hollow to form? He had several possibilities, but none could be proven. He eventually gave up on the quest of the inner heart's real purpose and changed his emphasis to hollow development. Every development following Jillian placed a strong focus on repressing primal impulses. The primal inclinations that transformed them into hyenas seek souls rather than meat. Each evolution after Jillian focused on repressing primitive tendencies that had pushed them to become insatiable soul-seekers. Arankars mostly resembled Shinigami. He closed his eyes, his thoughts racing with many hypotheses. After thinking for a few minutes, he opened his eyes, now shining with a fresh understanding. He felt like a hermit who had found a deeper understanding of life. Got it. Men don't need to eat others to get stronger and evolve. The main aim here is to boost their awareness, helping to keep those basic instincts in check. If we don't do this, we'll end up back at Jillian class. The theory just seemed too logical to be anything but true or a figment of imagination. So, Arankars. He couldn't help but smirk when he figured out the real reason behind tearing the mask for Arankarization. Aizen had a point when he talked about separating the boundaries between a hollow and Shinigami to make an Arankar. But there's definitely more to the process. Otherwise, we wouldn't have natural Arankars like Ulquiorra Cypher and Coyote Stark, right? I think it's time to put my theory and my new skill to the test. He glanced over at his sleepy friend and gave her mask a gentle pat. Why don't you join me? So where are we headed? Let's stir things up a bit, my little friend. Let's have some fun with the fate of a few unfortunate souls. Apache gave him a look that said he must be out of his mind. His first day in Hueco Mundo might have really gotten to him. Arthur's note. Totally, the system lets him switch between different races. I was thinking about making him something like Ichigo, but then I thought about it and realized it wouldn't really add up, since Ichigo got his powers from his parents, and I definitely didn't want to make Naruto his brother. I went with the simplest option, the system. Sure, when he changes to a different race, he won't be able to tap into his hollow powers. I'm doing this because I want to keep him from becoming too powerful just yet, otherwise, the story wouldn't have much meaning. How could anyone even think about the idea of oppression? Being able to completely overpower someone so they can't even put up a fight. The ability to completely overwhelm someone, like squashing a bug. The way Naruto's aspect of death manifests is kind of similar, but also really different from those ideas. It was such an amazing ability. He headed out looking for an opponent to see how well it worked. Guess what? He stumbled upon 4 huge hollows just chilling in an underground cave. They were the Manos Grande. A Manos Grande is actually taller than your typical house in Japan, which is different from a Jukas and Vasto Lord. Each one was dressed in black, sporting a mask with a long nose that had 3 holes in it. Even though they were huge, they were seen as foot soldiers in Las Noches, since they were weaker than a Jukas in terms of strength and raw power, and were usually referred to as Jillian. All the Jillians let out a loud screech when they noticed the intruders. Apache gave him a little nudge with her horn. Fighting her just doesn't make sense. Let's do this. She could handle 3 or 4 Jillians by herself, but their combined Sero would totally take her out. She was worried that the fight might draw in a stronger hollow. Naruto just smiled and reached out his hand toward the Jillians. Compress the air around us. A blue Ryotsu wrapped around the intimidating giant hollows, and the wind howled like a wolf. The air was all around, just like Reishi in Hueco Mundo. In a vast open world, the air felt like it weighed hundreds of thousands of pounds. Usually, the pressure inside the body balances out the air pressure outside, while the tissues take in the remaining force. The oppression really messed up that perfect balance, leading to nothing but pure destruction. A Jillian's body was definitely tougher than a human's, but could it really handle almost a ton of pressure from every direction? The answer came to light with the sound of cracking bones. Flesh tore open and blood gushed out. In a surprising twist, the 4 Jillians, standing tall at 4 stories, collapsed into grotesque masses of flesh. That's incredible. He was totally blown away by the power of his natural talent. Oppression has a way of weighing down everyone under its unyielding power. Using the force of oppression, you can enhance any part of a physical body, whether it's your environment or a specific area of your opponent's body. The amount of Riryoku you use will go up based on the resistance you encounter and how well you understand that aspect. It's a perfect skill for someone who has always dealt with the ongoing pressure from his grandfather, even if it was more in his head. He could enhance one part of his environment as long as it was physically there. He could actually make anyone's heart race and even break it. A quick death that would need a lot of Riryoku, and that amount would differ from person to person. So, the ability had its flaws. The biggest issue was how much energy it used, and then there were the conditions to consider. Using it just once against Jillians took away almost a quarter of his Riryoku. It would be even less efficient if he attempted to take on stronger hollows. If his opponent pushed back his Ryotsu with a stronger concentration of Riryoku, the ability wouldn't be effective. I really need to broaden my understanding if I want to make the most of this ability. He wished he hadn't skipped classes at the academy. Apache looked at Jillian's in shock, a cold shiver running down her spine. She was both amazed and scared by the incredible power. The random hollow she stumbled upon was like a terrifying slaughter machine. So, what did you end up doing? Apache whispered, her face still showing disbelief. Is this really what a Vasto Lord can do? What's up? He tilted his head and gave a sweet, innocent smile. I don't think you'd get it, even if I explained it to you. And no, not every Vasto Lord needs to be that scary. You cheeky little thing. Apache never thought she'd actually want to use her horns to skewer someone, but here we are. His playful teasing really got under her skin. She took a moment, glancing at the far-off hills, a deep fear washing over her. Naruto let out a laugh. Did you feel that too? Apache gave a slow nod in response to his question. I have way better senses than other Ijukas. Even though her senses might have sharpened because of her timid lifestyle, she felt a sense of pride in what she had accomplished. Surviving in Hueco Mundo relied on a few key factors. She was faster, stronger, and smarter, with two things that set her apart from her peers. That's impressive. The young guy, all about his own interests, had a big grin on his face. They showed up just when they needed to. Hey Apache, why don't you find a little spot to hide and let me handle this? The newcomers were pretty open about their Ryotsu, which was just a bit stronger than Apache's. Apache just stood there, not following his order at all. Who do you think you're talking to? I'm not a coward or anything like that. Check out my Sero as it tears them apart. After munching on the hollow, her Riryoku was back to full strength. She could take out weaker hollows with her Sero rays, although she still couldn't hold her own against a male Ijukas. Hey, looks like you're finally showing some backbone, Naruto said softly, giving her hollow mask a gentle rub. I really appreciate it when you demonstrate that kind of determination. Grr. Hey, please don't treat me like a pet. The enemies arrived pretty quickly. A humanoid lizard like Hollow that's more than 2 meters tall, a massive monkey like Hollow sporting a white mask, and another one that looks like a giant crow, all looming over their companions. 3 Ijukas showed up, clearly not friendly at all. It just made sense for him to treat them like dolls in a dollhouse. A little white goat and a deer, the monkey said with a pointed tone. They fit the description of those 2 hollows that were taking out my subordinates around here. Let's take them down and head back to Lord Baragan. The crow gave a nod in response to what his fellow indirect subordinates of the undisputed king of Hueco Mundo had to say. They had released their hollow subordinates to grow in the wild, but they ended up getting taken out by newcomers. Apache shot out a crispy beam of Sero ray, singeing the monkey's fur around its chest and creating quite the bloody mess. Hey there, you silly monkey. Just so you know, I'm actually a reindeer. Naruto has wings too. He is no goat. Open your eyes before saying something that doesn't make sense. Wow. Naruto flashed a grin at the angry hollows as he gently patted Apache's head. Hey, that's not really the best way to greet our guests, is it? How about we go into my cave and talk about what's been going on in your lives? I'm really good at listening. A therapist who knows their stuff. What are you talking about? Apache shot back. They're really upset right now. Are you really trying to mock me? A servant of Lord Baragan's court? You're going to regret this. Down with the sinner. The hollows let out a furious roar and charged right at him. He disappeared in an instant, leaving behind a loud bang. He popped back up just a few moments later, a few meters away, using his Sonido technique. He zoomed past the hollows, leaving them in the dust with his incredible speed. There's really no reason to be that upset. Wow. He lifted his hand from Apache's head and let the full weight of his Vasto Lord class Ryotsu flow out. I really don't want that for you guys. You're going to be part of something amazing. Be glad you gave your life for something meaningful. The hollows seemed like the sky was falling, and it sent chills down their spines. His Ryotsu was tearing at their souls. A Vasto Lord? What a bummer. What's a Vasto Lord doing here? Wow, it hit them way too late. Their fate was sealed the moment they came at him with bad intentions. Apache, standing behind Naruto, caught just a hint of his overwhelming Ryotsu. That really shook her up, deep down. Vasto Lord are incredibly powerful. Isn't it amazing to think about having that kind of power? She could finally let go of her run and hide life and embrace the way Naruto talked about, without worrying about the inevitable end. A feeling not too far from envy filled her up. Unfortunately, she was one of those Ijuka's class who didn't really gain much strength even after eating an Ijuka's class hollow. To put it simply, she just didn't have the potential to become a Vasto Lord. She was really annoyed when someone went back on a promise. She clenched her jaw. Forget about Vasto Lord. I'm on my way to becoming the strongest Arrancar. She was just beginning her journey to reach new heights. A little while back, a gray snake with a white underbelly slithered across the sandy white dunes of Hueco Mundo. The 3 pink dots on each side of her head and the 3 pearls dangling from her white oyster-like mask pretty much gave away her gender. As I strolled by, I spotted a fierce lioness strutting her stuff, decked out in pieces of white armor on her 4 legs. This lioness really stood out with her golden mask and a mane that flowed beautifully beyond it. 2 Ijuka's females accompanied a golden-haired woman who was relatively petite in comparison to her companions. A light blue layer of skin-tight suit enveloped her from neck to bottom, almost blending seamlessly with her healthy olive skin. An armor resembling white bone enveloped the majority of her physique, featuring gills along her limbs and ribs. Distinctive protrusions emerged from her shoulders, resembling the protective elements of armor. A lengthy appendage extended from the back of her head. This appendage featured a fin reminiscent of a shark in the center and 2 articulated fins at its terminus. A large white broadsword, resembling an elongated shark fang, was integrated with her arm. She was an influential Vasto Lord. Era, Mila Rose, please proceed ahead of us. We may lose visibility of you in this darkness. This individual is quite frustrating. What accounts for her impressive height? The snake and the lioness engaged in a heated exchange. The serpent elevated itself, its white scales glistening in the shadows, and emitted a warning hiss. The lioness positioned herself low, her eyes fierce, and let out a powerful roar to assert her dominance. They confronted one another as if they were formidable adversaries. Level Haribel dismissed the notion with a shake of her head. Remaining in a cave lacked excitement, prompting Haribel and her 2 companions to take walks in the White Ashes Desert surrounding Hueco Mundo. Occasionally, she encountered remnants from the ancient era, once occupied by hollows. At times, she discovered vacant chambers. At times, she encountered individuals with whom she could establish trust. The anticipation of a forthcoming discovery motivated Haribel to persevere each day. Today, they ventured out for a stroll. However, her companions continued to engage in disputes. Cyan Sung Sun, the Snake Hollow, addressed her leader with a measured demeanor. Haribel consistently took the time to assess the situation before articulating her thoughts. Haribel's abrupt, serious expression indicated underlying threats. Haribel-sama. Upon hearing Sung Sun's serious tone, Francesca Mila Rose subdued her growl. "Ha? Haribel-sama, may I inquire about the issue at hand? I detect a significant presence of Ryotsu." Haribel halted in her tracks and positioned her sword-like arm to obstruct her comrades. Her golden brows furrowed in a look of concern. "It may be considered a conflict." "That matter is not of our concern," stated the lioness. "Shall we leave it as is?" Mila Rose's tone reflected her casual indifference to the lives of others. Haribel facilitated the collaboration between her and Sung Sun to ensure mutual protection against other hollows, even though Haribel undertook the majority of the challenging tasks. Mila Rose was not comfortable intervening in the conflicts of others. "We will monitor from afar," Haribel stated to Mila Rose. "Please accompany me." The composed Vasto Lord made a swift decision and advanced without awaiting her comrade's response. Sung Sun emitted a sharp hiss. "Haribel-sama demonstrates greater compassion for lives than either of us. It is time we acknowledge it." Haribel consistently extended forgiveness to the hollows that attempted to assault them, even acknowledging her aversion to taking lives. She occasionally eliminated the most troublesome one to ensure that Sung Sun and Mila Rose could retain their current Ijuka's status. However, she did not assist them in consuming hollows to advance further. Sung Sun and Mila Rose held Haribel in high regard due to her ability to execute her desires with authority. She possessed the ability to navigate Hueco Mundo with assurance. However, this does not apply to King Barrigan's court. Mila Rose dug her paw into the ground and made a significant leap. Please refrain from speaking to me in a condescending manner. I understand Haribel Sama's disdain for the act of sacrificing others. However, your behavior tends to be quite impulsive, reminiscent of a child's. Sung Sun chuckled softly. Haribel Sama, please hold on for us. I will take decisive action against you. The determined lioness pursued a snake across the arid expanse of the White Desert. Haribel quickly identified the origin of the exceptionally dense Ryotsu, a hollow, approximately her height, confronting a formidable Ajukas. His Ryotsu was slightly stronger than hers. It remained uncommon for her to encounter a formidable hollow beyond the confines of Las Noches. Haribel observed her immobilized colleagues, who were ensnared by a deep-seated fear. They exhibited a comparable response when she rescued them from the hollows attempting to consume her, another vast lord. He was the second Vasto Lord Haribel encountered in Hueco Mundo, the first being the rather bothersome ruler of Hueco Mundo when she ascended to the rank of Vasto Lord a few years prior. He has consistently demonstrated greater strength, a fact that holds true even in the present day. Haribel Sama. Sung Sun paused, swallowing hard as the hollow's Ryotsu sent a shiver down her spine, even from a considerable distance. It would be prudent for us to leave before he becomes aware of our presence. Mila Rose disapproved and firmly struck the ground with her foot. Ah, yet another individual. He is going to pursue us. We should strategically approach him while he is engaged with the other hollow. Mila Rose regained her assertive demeanor after addressing her fears. Her suggestion differed significantly from Sung Sun's tranquil approach. Era? Sung Sun emitted a sharp hiss. The hollow possesses long hair, and their face is obscured by a mask. What methods do you use to determine their gender? Mila Rose paused briefly, then thoughtfully scratched her head with her paw. I am uncertain. I experienced a strong intuition. Observe his physique. If that isn't a man, I am unsure who qualifies. Sung Sun opened and closed her eyes. Mila Rose appears to be onto something, as a hollow's instincts resemble those of a beast. Haribel Sama, I would recommend refraining from participating in a confrontation. We could potentially attract additional adversaries. She adopted a composed and serious demeanor, in contrast to her playful interactions with Mila Rose. Haribel acknowledged and maintained her focus on the ongoing battle. She was not surprised when the unfamiliar Vasto Lord eliminated the Ajukas with a Sero Ray in a single strike. What is happening? He eliminated an Ajukas in a single strike. Mila Rose, however, did not underestimate his abilities. She had observed Haribel effortlessly eliminate Ajukas. Engaging with another hollow of Haribel's caliber was quite daunting for her. I informed you, Mila Rose, Sung Sun murmured. We cannot engage him haphazardly. We should depart before he becomes aware of our presence. Sung Sun gently nudged Mila Rose's mane with her head before gracefully moving away. Mila Rose acknowledged Sung Sun's request and proceeded to follow her. Meanwhile, Haribel observed Naruto extend his hand toward his companion. Haribel engaged in several interactions with Apache. However, she did not initiate any communication with her. Based on Haribel's observations, Apache conducted herself with a focus on her own affairs and refrained from initiating conflicts with others. This resulted in Haribel designating Apache as a friend of sorts. I am pleased that she has found someone dependable. Haribel cast another look at Naruto, who stood with his back to her, displaying his wings. As Apache's companion, he distinguished himself from other hollows in Hueco Mundo. His objective was not to consume others. Furthermore, consuming other souls was not advantageous at their present level, as Gillen souls offered minimal to no enhancements to their strength. Enhancing their inherent skills and assembling allies was sufficient for survival in Hueco Mundo. She sought greater strength, yet she was unwilling to attain it at the expense of other hollows. The male Vasto Lord abruptly shifted his gaze towards her. Despite the distance between them, she sensed his gaze thoroughly assessing her from head to toe. Haribel averted her gaze from the eyes that seemed to hold infinite depths and shook her head. Remaining here serves no purpose. XXX hollows did not engage in dreaming. Their thoughts traversed the memories of their essence. specifically, their most prominent essence. The constructed illusions may also be referred to as a synthetic dream. In her deceptive dreams, Haribel frequently observed a hazy white room, where metal shrieked and sparked, with blinding lights flickering all around. Figures with white heads evoked a sense of alarm through their captivating whispers. Subsequently, an untainted cry resonated, disrupting the very fabric of reality until only emptiness persisted. The relentless cries of the infant resonated deeply within Haribel, eroding her inner being and weighing heavily on her heart. A pair of white eyes filled with moisture, releasing a stream of crimson tears that gradually obscured her vision with a chilling red hue. Haribel possessed an innate ability to sense the anguish underlying every tear. Haribel opened her eyes while positioned on a slope, her left hand resting on her left knee and her right knee bent. She exhibited no indications of unease, as if she had completely erased every experience within her fabricated dream. That was exactly the situation. Her deep sympathy and regret had faded back into her inner self after she awoke. She was unable to fully remember the experience of her previous life, the time she spent as a mother. Haribel abruptly lifted her head. High-pitched cries resonated throughout the ominous landscapes of Hueco Mundo. The sound resonated as if originating from a distant location, reflecting off the surrounding hills. The grains of ash-white sands shifted in gentle waves as Mila rose and Sung Sun emerged from their brief slumber. "Sung, did you hear that? Era, please maintain a level of decorum." "Indeed, I did. It seems that a group of Manos Grande may have been provoked." "Is it possible that this is the male hollow?" Mila Rose's thoughts instantly turned to the daunting hollow they had faced. "Should we proceed with our departure? What would prompt him to disrupt Manos Grande? The world does not center on him." Sung Sun narrowed her eyes. "What is the reason for your continued references to him? Did you happen to develop an interest in him?" Mila Rose has consistently admired strength, with her past significantly influencing her admiration for the powerful. It is reasonable to consider that Mila Rose might develop feelings for a significantly more powerful hollow. "Please refrain from using unclear language." Mila Rose turned her head with a disapproving huff. "I believed he would be associated with this incident. He appeared to be the challenging type. You undoubtedly have a deeper understanding of him than we do." Haribel gently closed her eyes. Her companions, upon hearing the howls, noted a significant detail: the conflict was nearer this time. She perceived Apache's Ryotsu intensifying in conjunction with her winged companion's Ryotsu. They are capable of supporting one another. She disregarded the howls and lowered her head for another period of light sleep, as if her subconscious was compelled to revisit the nightmare repeatedly. XXX moments later, Haribel rose abruptly. A haunting wail echoed as a powerful Ryotsu asserted its presence, intensifying with each passing moment. The tension was so palpable it nearly overwhelmed her Ajuka's colleagues. Subsequently, the pressure dissipated completely, resulting in a state of confusion among her party. Haribel took a quick look at her friends. "Let's head back to the base. I'll take a look at it." Before Sung Sun and Mila could say anything, Haribel jumped into the air and took off. A loud boom echoed as Haribel suddenly appeared a few feet away. She quickly dashed toward the source of those excruciating howls, as a series of loud sonic bursts rumbled around her. Another shriek echoed and faded away before she got there. What she saw freaked her out. A huge bird-like hollow let out a screech while attempting to shield its face with its wings. Dark Ryotsu spilled out from him, sending the ash sand swirling around him. His Ryotsu went beyond what you'd expect from an Ajuka's, barely brushing against the level of a Vasto Lord. His Ryotsu surged wildly for a bit before gradually settling back into his soul. Vasto Lord, Ajuka's, Jillian. His Ryotsu dropped quickly and then just vanished completely. The hollow dropped to his knees, and a strong gust of wind blew his fragile form into a cloud of ashes. "I'm here to help. What do you need assistance with today?" Arthur's note. Since we don't know much about their backstories, I've decided to tweak a few things. One of them is Haribel, a mother who passed away during childbirth, facing the risks of bringing new life into the world. The story fits perfectly with her aspect of death sacrifice and the hollow hole located in her womb. Naruto's experiment went just as he expected. The transformation of the three Ajukas into Arrancar ended in disaster and their downfall. A disappointing but understandable result. Hoping that unnamed NPCs would manage to control their primal instincts and then trap them in a weapon was just asking for letdowns. He didn't see it coming. Haribel showing up, drawn in by that huge spike in Ryotsu. Still, he didn't let her impressive look get to him. A Vasto Lord. Her Ryotsu is weaker than mine. It looked like she had just reached her Vasto Lord rank recently. If not, her Ryotsu would definitely be way stronger than his. With a charming grin on his face, he gave a friendly wave. Sorry to interrupt your relaxation. With a withering hollow around, his formal greeting came off as pretty sinister. His beautiful voice, kind of like a choir of angelic bells, didn't really help his situation either. There were definitely some red flags with him, but Haribel, wrapped up in the chaos of Ajuka's deaths, just didn't see them. So, what's the deal with these hollows? They came at us out of the blue. When they realized they couldn't beat me, they began ripping off their masks. He scratched the back of his head, putting on a pretend helpless smile. And that's how it all went down. What's the deal with a hollow tearing their mask? Haribel wasn't impressed by his charming voice and asked a good question. She glanced over at Apache, who looked a bit tense. So, is that really what went down? It's pretty clear that she doesn't trust Naruto at all, but she really has faith in Apache. She'd much prefer to trust Apache, someone she's been watching for a while, rather than putting her faith in a total stranger. When Haribel asked her question, Apache felt like she was caught in a tough spot. Naruto told Haribel a little white lie without batting an eye, even though he was the one who had smashed the 3 Ajuka's masks with his fists. He did it without changing his expression, as if all the pleading from those Ajukas didn't matter to him at all. He was fierce and brutal, almost like a devil, similar to the hollows that wanted to consume her. She couldn't have been more off with her first impression of him. It was nothing like who he really was. She got what his experiments were really about. Using others as a means to see how well Irankurization worked. Would you go to any lengths for power? As she stole a quick look at him, she saw his lips were neutral, but his eyes were shining, almost pushing her to make a move. He wanted her to make a choice. Either cover for him or turn against him and join Haribel. This choice could really shape her life moving forward. What a jerk! She clenched her jaw, feeling annoyed by his clear effort to corner her. Absolutely. They went a bit crazy trying to find a Vasto Lord that was almost as powerful as their master, King Baragon. Figuring out Haribel's intentions was a lot simpler than trying to guess the complex plans swirling around in that devious mind of his. Even with everything going on, she just wouldn't turn her back on him. He saved her life and helped her get her Riryoku back. Even though she wouldn't admit it, the last day had been the most fun she'd had in her lonely life. Once Apache confirmed things, Haribel decided not to press the issue anymore and looked at Naruto with a calm expression. King Baragon views all Vasto Lord as a challenge to his power. Eventually, he'll come after us to bring us into his Espada ranks. You both should keep going. Keep your distance from Baragon's minions. Baragon viewed all of Hueco Mundo as his playground, seeing everyone as a piece he could use and then toss aside. The Espada beneath him were simply more tools to carry out his wishes. Haribel, however, couldn't stand the idea of sacrificing anyone at all. Two strong personalities with different beliefs were bound to bump heads, even if she didn't plan on stepping on his toes. What makes us believe what you're saying? Apache looked at Haribel with a questioning gaze, her eyes sharp and probing. Forget about this King Baragon. Naruto is going to knock his head right off, cough. Cough. Naruto was doing his best to hold back a laugh, but it turned into a cough instead. He cleared his throat and gently rubbed her head. Apache. So, I just became a Vasto Lord yesterday, and King Baragon has been ruling for ages now. His army could overwhelm me with their sheer numbers. When I say me, I really mean us. Now, we're in this together, Apache, for better or worse. Apache's eyes grew wide at the idea of facing an army made up of Jillian, Ajukas, and Vasto Lords. Her colorful imagination had her head spinning. You know what? You're absolutely right. You're really quick to anger. The quote, "Think before you act," is meant to guide impulsive hollows like you. He let out a sigh and flashed a smile at Haribel. King Baragon is going to hold me responsible for the deaths of his subordinates. I really don't think I can take him and his crew on all by myself. What do you think I should do? What can I do to keep Apache safe right now? His aspect of death simply wasn't efficient enough to fight Barrigan at this stage. Besides, he needed an excuse to invade Haribel's group and slowly bring them to his side. Did he actually take King Barragan as a threat, though? Absolutely not. He always had the option of jumping to the living world and changing his race to human, or going to Soul Society as a normal soul and hiding among weak souls like a little bitch. The vast amount of choices didn't leave threats in Hueco Mundo, except for Aizen, who was fated to take over Hueco Mundo. Fuck Aizen. Apache let out a low, growly sound that reminded you of a riled-up dog. Wow, what a manipulative jerk. He's putting on a helpless act now. Haribel's aqua-green eyes widened just a bit, her attention locked onto Naruto. You could see a mix of emotions in her eyes, each one quick and hard to figure out. She paused for a moment and then asked gently, "Did you say you're 1 day old?" Naruto was momentarily perplexed by Haribel's unexpected question. He shot a quick look at Apache, seeking some reassurance, before turning his attention back to Haribel. "I am. Feel free to ask Apache." Apache gave a nod, showing her agreement and confirming how long he would live. "I came across him half-buried just about a day ago. He had no clue how to manage his Ryotsu or that he's actually a freaking Vasto Lord." When Apache backed up Naruto's statement, Haribel's eyes lit up with a gentle glow. "You can come with me." He quickly brought his hand up to cover his wide-open mouth. "Haribel laid out 2 options for us. We could either agree or disagree." But the spark of hope in her eyes was just begging him to say yes. Even Naruto, who's usually so calm, felt a little shiver run through him. Haribel's behavior was definitely off, that's for sure. She seemed really excited to invite him, almost like they had met before. Something was extremely wrong, an unease gnawed at his mind. But he just couldn't figure out why he felt this way. "She changed after I said I'm 1 day old. That's extremely suspicious." Taking a deep breath, he nodded and smiled. "The more the merrier, they say. Us weak ones gotta stick together." Apache nearly choked on his ridiculous claim. "You're weak, PFFT. If you're weak, then everyone in Hueco Mundo is just an ant." Little Apache picked up on sarcasm. "That's quite a scary turn of events. I owe it all to you, you little rascal. It's all because of you." He laughed a bit and noticed Haribel looking at him. "I'm Naruto, just so you know, it's Apache. How about you?" "Dear Haribel." "Wow, that's quite a unique name. Sure, go ahead and call me Haribel." Haribel just shook her head. "Come on, let's go." Naruto and Apache trailed behind Haribel as they made their way to her base, their footsteps barely making a sound on the moonlit ground. Just as he thought, there were 2 Ajukas hanging out in the cave, looking right at him. The snake's slitted eyes sparkled with curiosity and a hint of mischief, while the lioness let out a low growl, clearly showing her displeasure. She reacted like Naruto was the evil force that took away her loved ones. Cyan Sung's son let out a little giggle. "Oh no, Haribel-sama brought someone home. Is that really all you have to say?" Mila Rose snapped at her friend for being way too laid back. They just hinted that Naruto might be a bad guy who would come after them right away. So there they were, him and his buddy, standing in front of them as guests of Haribel. "Why aren't you asking anything about him?" The snake paid no attention to Mila Rose's shouts and flicked its tail at Naruto and Apache. Apache pointed at Sung's son and then at Mila Rose with her feet. "It's Haribel's entire squad. I'm Apache." Sung's son quickly stuck her tongue out for just a moment. "I'm Cyan Sung's son. This feisty little puppy is Francesca Mila Rose. Do they have first and last names?" Apache leaned in and whispered to Naruto. "Looks like we're the only ones who don't have it. It's really just you." Naruto gave a warm smile to Sung's son. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki." Sung's son nodded, her eyes crinkling with a hint of pleasure. "Your voice has such a calming effect. You're going to be an amazing singer or storyteller. I just don't have any memories to pull a story from," he said with a sigh, really leaning into that teenage vibe. He felt a heavy vibe in the cave, so he just laughed it off. "I've got some funny stories about Apache. Are you interested? I'd really like to hear them. Don't throw me under the bus." Apache jumped in with a heated comeback. "Hold on, I really don't have any embarrassing moments." "Do I really?" He folded his arms and flashed a grin. "You just did that. Sun chuckled. Looks like you fell for it. Haribel kept a close eye on the three, her expression serious. Naruto and Apache really clicked with Sun, but you know, Sun had this knack for being friendly with just about everyone, no matter what they were like. Meanwhile, Mila Rose blinked her eyes while everyone else at the party chatted away like they were old friends. The new members fit right in with their group, but she felt out of place, like a fish out of water. She really couldn't stand this feeling. Naruto looked over at Mila Rose, clearly getting why she was quiet. His presence really shook up their group dynamic. If I'm making you feel anxious, should I step away? Mila Rose looked at him, her surprise barely hidden. The person who still remembered her was also the reason for all her mixed-up feelings. She was definitely taken aback by his polite apology, especially with the way his soft voice made it even more impactful. Mila Rose let out a soft roar before turning her gaze elsewhere. I'm not criticizing Haribel-sama's decision. She's not going to do anything that could hurt us. Naruto nodded and gave a gentle smile. Mila Rose came off as just another tsundere hollow, but she definitely had a fiercer vibe than Apache. I forgot she was even a thing, Sun whispered. Wow, Mila Rose. Try to be a bit more polished. How about we kick things off with a quick introduction? Is this the introduction? Mila Rose hesitated for a moment before sitting down like a good little puppy. Hi there, I'm Francesca. Mila Rose. I enjoy tearing hollows apart and kicking heads around for fun. I enjoy sharpening my claws too. Everyone was left speechless by her introduction. Mila Rose looked around at everyone, curious about how well her introduction had gone over. With an innocent smile, he broke the silence by clapping. That was great, stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.